You must overcome the corruption, Sigryn. You have the strength.
But, Mother, I must avenge your death!
Hey, what's up everybody? This is Swagadon with Swagger Gaming, bringing you another Mage Tower Challenge guide. If you don't want to hear me talk and just want to see the encounter played through, I've provided a link to that video in the description below. In this guide, we'll be talking about the Assassination Rogue. To beat this challenge, you must complete the God Queen's Fury scenario, in which you will need to defeat Sigryn and her two friends. Before we jump into talent choices, I wanted to remind everybody that I do not play Rogue beyond the Mage Tower challenges, and that the talents and rotations I will be discussing in this guide are probably not what you want to be using for dungeons or raids, and are just what worked for me to complete this challenge. If you have any suggestions that may help out others, please feel free to comment below. I went with a poison-based build over the bleed build because it is theoretically a higher DPS output. Because of this, I took Master Poisoner as my tier 1 talent to increase baseline poison damage. For tier 2, you can either go with Night Stalker or Subterfuge. Subterfuge probably comes out ahead because you're able to apply 2 garrotes per vanish, but I actually went with Night Stalker because I knew I was not comfortable enough to jam those vanishes in anyways. I took Vigor for tier 3 as it is the recommended talent for poison builds, and is probably the easiest to play with. Cheat Death allows you to miss a mechanic or counter bad RNG, so that's what I took for tier 4. For tier 5 I had Thuggy, which is the wrong choice for this tier because you will never proc the cooldown reset. If I had to go back and repick this tier, I would most likely take Prey on the Weak for the extra 10% damage while CC'd. In tier 6 I chose Alacrity because it was the passive choice on this tier. I believe Toxic Blade is the best choice here for maximizing poison build DPS. For our tier 7 talent, I took Venom Rush. Venom Rush is passive and is the best overall DPS talent for this tier. The Assassination Rogue rotation is fairly straightforward, but does have some nuances that are needed to elevate your DPS. For the purposes of this guide, the general idea is to keep your damage over time effects up on all 3 targets and using Venom when you do not need your combo points to refresh. If you have all 3 targets stacked up, you can use Fan of Knives to generate combo points instead of Mutilate. For more information on the basics for Assassination Rogues, I recommend checking out Icyveins. I will provide a link in the description below. I was 930 item level when I beat this encounter, and was using Insignia of the Grand Army and Killjaden's Burning Wish for legendaries. The Insignia is the free ring that increases Nether Crucible effects, and KJ's Burning Wish is the trinket that shoots an AoE damage orb on use. I also had 2 set tier 21 from LFR, that gives deadly and wound poisons a 35% increased chance to critically strike for 6 seconds after using Envenom. This is a nice little damage boost if you're having trouble, but it is not mandatory by any means. This fight is not overly difficult, but it is long and full of one-shot mechanics, so it requires a good amount of focus to complete. It is also very possible to be killed by RNG or a bug in this encounter, so don't get too frustrated if that happens to you. There are 3 total bosses that each have multiple abilities and several general counter mechanics as well. I'll break these all up into 4 sections and go over each of the mechanics individually. Sigryn is the main enemy of this encounter and has a few abilities. Beyond this, she can empower her 2 allies, but more on that later. To start the encounter, you will need to engage Sigryn as the other 2 will not be targetable. Sigryn's first ability is a spear throw. She will toss a spear at you and it will leave a puddle of fel on the ground. The best way to counter this is to keep it on the edge of the room as much as possible because there are other mechanics it can cover up if dropped in the middle. These puddles will eventually disappear, but they do a decent amount of damage, so avoid them as much as possible. The second and main ability she casts is Blood of the Father. You'll need to blind her, ideally before the cast goes off. This ability is a channel that does a very high amount of damage, and if not dealt with quickly, it will kill you. It is okay if she gets 1 or 2 ticks off, but anything beyond that is probably unrecoverable from. The reason you want to CC her before the cast goes off is if you do not and your blind breaks from damage, she will continue her channel. Jarl Velbrand is the melee opponent you will face. He has a few abilities and can kill you if not dealt with properly, but is mostly just annoying. His main ability is a Fixate, in which he will target you and do increased damage if allowed to hit you. You'll be able to take a few hits from this, but I do not recommend tanking it. You can stun him, but I found it easier to just run away, popping sprint if need be. When he is not fixated on you, he will either be hitting you with normal melee attacks or standing still and tossing axes that move in circular patterns. These axes will do a moderate amount of damage and knock you down, so just try to avoid them as much as possible. His last mechanic is when Sigrid empowers him. You'll start spinning and essentially create a whirlwind on him that will pull you in. The closer you are to him, the harder the pull is and the more damage it will deal. Just run out of this and you should be fine. Rune CR Faljar is the caster in this encounter. He'll be sitting in the back and casting shadow bolts at you most of the time. You can't really stop the cast, but the damage is negligible anyway. As melee, if you are attacking Faljar, he will move with you so you can move him out of other ground mechanics if necessary. When empowered, Rune CR Faljar will gain a shield and start a cast called Ancestral Knowledge. If this cast goes off, you will most likely be one-shot and die. You'll need to DPS through his shield and interrupt the cast. Your dot should already be ticking, so another couple 5-point envenoms should be enough to break the shield. There are also several general encounter mechanics that will happen throughout the fight. The first one is the runes. 3 purple runes will spawn on the ground and will start to shrink. You'll need to run over them to pop them before they disappear, or they will explode and do a large amount of damage. These will spawn in 3 different sizes, so it is always best to try and hit the smaller ones first. The other general encounter ability is the Dark Valkyr. They will spawn on one side of the room, north, south, east, or west, and shoot across to the other side. If this hits you, it is usually a one-shot mechanic. There will always be a gap in the line, so find that spot and make sure you are not hit. There will also be Light Valkyr that spawn golden orbs periodically throughout the encounter. These will heal you for a decent amount, and when combined with your healing elixir, should be enough to keep you alive throughout the encounter. Note that these despawn fairly quickly, so be sure to grab them. I used a macro to cast Blind on my focus target, so I didn't have to switch to Sigryn when she cast Blood of the Father. I have posted that in the description below. Make sure if you use this to keep Sigryn as your focus target. You can see me forget to do this in the kill video and have to set focus and blind quickly on that first cast. For Weakauras, I use encounter reminders uploaded by Steel Phantom on wago.io. My UI also uses Ipse's Rogue Weakaura HUD. Both of these can be found in the description below. This encounter is probably on the easier side compared to the other 6, but does take focus as you can easily be one-shot by several mechanics. The ability for rogues to multi-dot expedited the encounter, and cheat death was helpful for bad RNG. If you want to see more different information in these videos moving forward, what class and spec would you like to see next? Thanks for watching and have a great one.